Glory. Tim Montgomerie's here. Very good morning to you, Tim. Some pretty spectacular news event yesterday when Tim Montgomerie announced that he'd left the Conservative Party for the first time, I think, in many a year, and has now got over to join Reform. We're talking about working from home this morning. We're talking about crime. John Rentoul was on from The Independent disputing my suggestion that crime is up, and up even more, no matter where you look. Let's get a voice note from Chris.
Morning, Mike. Chris in North Yorkshire. Just wondering if all these Westminster civil servants who refuse to work in the office get a deduction in their London waiting pay pro rata for the days they actually work.
I'm sure they don't, actually, and they should also be getting hit with some kind of form of tax for using their home as an office, but that's another story altogether. One here from John, who says, of course, according to surveys, burglary is down. The police don't investigate it, so people have given up reporting crimes. Crime is up. Fact. John is talking nonsense as usual. And one from Paul in Hitchin, who says, I think you're harsh on John Rentoul. He's right, crime is down, especially witchcraft, goat rustling and rum running. What a moron. He lives in a total bubble. I'm not having that. He's not a moron. Great show. Keep up the good work, keeping us all sane. Well, that's true. We've got much more to do. Ryan Saby's here from The Sun as well. This is Morning Glory. Let's get it on. So, as we ease ourselves into the third hour of the show, actually, Tim Montgomerie's here. Very good morning to you. You've been doing the rounds, haven't you? Because you announced yesterday, sort of late afternoon, you decided to leave the Conservative Party. For how long have you been a member of it?
Well, I worked actually, it wasn't 33 years, as I said, I think it was 36.
Wow.
So
quite a long time.
And it makes me feel old. That's one of the things that number crunching like that does. But no, I briefly left the Conservative Party for about 6 months after David Cameron negotiated that Brexit deal.
Oh, yeah.
I left in protest.
Okay.
But it was a 6-month absence in 36 years. So, you know, I feel slightly exhilarated by it because it's a decision that has been coming for quite a long time.
Yeah.
We've had these conversations.
Sure.
You know, 8, 10 or whatever, you know, for a few mornings over the last few months. And Mike, you probably noticed me being increasingly sort of disillusioned with the Conservative Party.
Well, particularly as they kind of drifted more and more into the centre ground of what is no longer really conservatism. I mean, you know, it's called the centre ground, but it's actually more to the left than any Conservative Party that I'd seen under even David Cameron. You know, the rot started there, I think.
Yeah, I thought, well, it's been going for a long time, but I think lots of sort of things sort of crystallised in my mind why I made the move, but partly it was Donald Trump's success, because in a way he's shown what the Conservative Party could have been.
Yes.
You know, he's built this very successful Republican Party that appeals to working-class, blue-collar Americans who want immigration under control, who are unhappy about what their kids are being taught in schools. Who want to be able
to have enough money to have a decent standard of living.
Yeah, and what the Tories did after the Brexit vote is they could have controlled immigration, they could have kept taxes down, they could have fought, you know, the culture wars in a way that the average person wanted, but instead, you know, that we had net zero, we lost control of immigration, and we put up things like national insurance. So I'm afraid the Tories went in the wrong direction. And
the Tories gave us the highest taxes since the Second World War, didn't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I feel sad to be leaving the Conservative Party, because political parties aren't just sort of political allegiances. In a way, they're friends and almost family.
Well, I mean, you started Conservative Home, which is still considered to be one of the more, what you might call, I suppose, pointed reference points for the Conservatives to go to. I mean, I don't think you're involved in it anymore.
No.
Because it's...
Certainly not anymore.
No, because I'm not quite sure how Conservative Home is, but then you've also worked inside of Downing Street, you've been an advisor, you know, you've been in with the furniture, if you like, of the Conservative Party. I mean, did you get any reaction from them? Did anybody from the Tories call you and say, what are you doing?
Yeah, I had enormous... My phone basically melted yesterday, and I'm going to do a little video later on trying to explain in sort of more detail why I've made the decision that I have, but I think Nigel Farage is a very special politician. I don't agree with him on
He's a great communicator.
He's a great communicator. And, you know, he understood a long time before the Conservative Party did that people had had enough of the European Union and led that campaign. He's been fighting on the immigration issue for a great number of years. And last Thursday's immigration numbers, Mike, the scale of immigration that's happened to this country, no one's given consent for it.
No.
In fact, an election after election, the British people have voted against.
And people have been told, promises have been made. I mean, the Boris Johnson government, before they came in, were promising to bring immigration down, net immigration, to 20,000.
Yeah.
And it was nothing near even 10 times that.
And they had they can't control necessarily the people crossing the channel in illegal boats.
Well, they could try a bit harder.
They could try harder. But what they absolutely can control is the general levels of illegal migration into this country. And they didn't control that.
Well, in fact, they encouraged more people to come. Yeah. And nowadays you hear people going, oh, well, the trouble is now we've got problems in our higher education system because foreign criminals, Freudian slip, foreign students are not coming in such large numbers. Why? Because they're not allowed to bring any dependents. Well, who said they should have brought dependents with them in the first place? I went to live in America and I was 23. I went on my own. I didn't say I'm going to take my brother, my sister, his nephew, my grandmother, I went to America to seek my fortune, and also to get away from my family, to be honest. But seriously, I mean...
It's those games at Christmas, playing those board games where they cheated against you in Monopoly.
It's true. I mean, the point is that, we've handed over the power to what we have kind of always said we wouldn't do, which is that anybody who wants to come to this country can bring whoever they want with them, and they can all live happily ever after. Well, we can't, actually.
No, we're seen as a soft-touch nation. And I, unfortunately, decided, particularly after last Thursday's numbers came out on immigration, the Conservative Party just weren't serious enough about addressing that
And so
problem.
are we going to see you lining up as an MP for reform at some point?
No, one way I'm a bit like you, Mike, is I'm an irritant, a rebel, an annoyance. I couldn't ever sign up to someone else's policy platform.
Okay.
I think it's in our blood, isn't it? We think for ourselves.
Yeah,
and
totally.
Look, I'm now a Reform Party member. I handed over my £25 in cash to Nigel Farage.
Yes, I saw you on Kevin's show saying that.
Yesterday.
Right.
And,
did he give you a receipt?
No. I need to go get that.
Yes, you should. But that's very...
But, I said to Nigel, I won't always agree with everything Reform says, but he said, they're a rebel army, and I took a part of that.
Well, I mean, they're making far more noise and they're making far more difference, I would say, to Parliament than 5 people should. Yeah. But I'm very glad that they're there, and I'm very glad that they're doing it. Yeah. Because they are the voice of the people, actually. And when I was talking to, funnily enough, we're going to get a clip in a minute from Mel Stride talking to Rachel Reeves. I had Mel Stride on yesterday, and when I mentioned Donald Trump's name, you could see him sort of visibly, slightly, recoil, as if, I don't want to be saying anything that's popular about Donald Trump. Well, why not? Yeah. They're still frightened of going anywhere near that. Yeah, well, Donald Trump is probably the most successful politician in the world at the moment. Yeah. He speaks for people in a way few other politicians do. And, like Nigel Farage, he's not always comfortable listening to some things that he says. He says controversial things. You think, oh, is that right? But what people know when they hear Trump and they hear Nigel is they think, well, I don't always agree with them, but they're telling me the truth. Yeah. They're not giving me a line. It's not manufactured by someone else or an advisor. I'm hearing the truth from them as they see it. Yes. And people want that. They're fed up with being lied to by politicians. Well, I mean, look at all the lies that Labour have told. I mean, we've been told one thing after another that they were going to do. They're now, I'm about to talk to Ryan Sobey from The Sun, but I said this yesterday, Keir Starmer has now worked out what we've all known for a while, the government's not working. So he's going to have to reshoot it. Starting tomorrow, he's going to come out and make another speech, making some more pledges or missions or whatever they are. Most of them won't happen. Most of them won't come true. And many of them he doesn't even believe in. Do you think he'll do a countdown to his I hope so. I hope so. I'm looking forward to that. Let's bring Ryan Sobey into the conversation. Ryan, very good morning to you. Welcome. It looks as though the Starmer Revolution Mark 1 is coming to an end. This is the last day of it, and tomorrow we start Mark 2 of the Starmer Revolution. You're looking forward to it?
Totally. One thing that I'm very, very keen to say, this is not a relaunch. This is not a reset. It's just another moment on this 5-year journey. And I think what they're trying to do is set up some measurable milestones. So whether that is on the health service, crime, immigration, the economy or living standards, what they're trying to do is actually say, well, we're actually going to set these phases out and you can judge us in 2 years' time, 3 years' time, 5 years' time and see if we've done our job. So I think they're trying to do that. And one thing they're trying to...
Well, they're trying to buy some time, in other words.
Yeah, and buy some time. And also, they're not going to repeat the same mistake that Rishi Sunak did on Stop the Boats. There will be no sort of hard deadline or hard moment on stopping the boats. It will just be a gradual sort of phasing towards getting to whichever target they choose.
Yeah. Doesn't sound quite as good, though, does it? A gradual phasing on trying to sort of slightly disrupt the boats. It's not really much of a slogan, is it? Let me play you this. Mel Stride asking Rachel Reeves about tax cuts in the Commons yesterday.
Could I ask her this? When she recently pledged to the CBI that she would not be raising taxes again, did she mean it?
At the budget in October, as the right honourable gentleman knows, we had to fix the £22 billion black hole in the public finances. And of course, some of that black hole comes from the fact that we're the only G7 economy where employment is lower now than it was before the pandemic, when he was presiding as Work and Pensions Secretary in the previous government. So we did have to raise taxes to fund our public services, but never again will we have to repeat a budget like that, because we have now wiped the slate clean and drawn a line under the mess created by the last government.
So presumably if they've drawn a line under the mess created by the last government, we won't be hearing any more about the £22 billion black hole, Tim.
No, I think we'll be hearing about that £22 billion black hole forever.
Yeah.
And of course, what the real black hole now is in the British finances is this dark cloud that Labour have created over the British economy by constantly talking doom and gloom.
Yes.
You know, investors aren't investing, businesses aren't employing people because Labour have created such a bleak picture now. And so that's the real problem. Whatever the Tories left behind, that talking down of animal spirits, as economists call it, that's the real problem. That
is the problem. The Sun this morning have got a story, Ryan, if I can come back to you, about the state of the economy and the state of business in this country, when the work ethic, according to a piece by Ashley Armstrong, has been ruined by the pandemic. This is coming from Lord Price. And it is a problem, isn't it? The production levels are down, productivity is massively down. You know, companies are saying, we're not going to invest any more money because we're being charged more to run our business. You know, it's not a good situation.
Yeah, I think company bosses have, in some cases, found it very difficult to get people actually back into the office. And when you're in the office and you're in that environment, it sparks ideas. People speak to each other around the water cooler, and it just creates sort of momentum for companies. But if you are saying to your workers, look, come in 2, maybe 3 days a week, if you are fortunate enough to work in that sort of office environment, it's very, very difficult to get everyone sort of pulling in the same direction. You just don't have those same conversations you do over Zoom or over Teams or what have you. So I think we just haven't gone back to, I look at the trains, if you commute in, Monday and Friday, they're never as busy as what they were before the pandemic, and it's just going to be seen as very, very difficult to get back to that.
No, of course. A lot of people, Tim, say, well, the thing is, I'm much more productive working from home. Well, we've got your word for that, but the figures wouldn't suggest that. And Telegraph this morning has got the work from home culture is now absolutely endemic within the civil service, and Whitehall now is like a ghost town.
Yeah, well, Whitehall in particular is, the public sector is always the slowest to come back to. Various reforms. And I tell you who I feel most sorry for, Mike, is young people. If you've known how to work in an office environment, maybe you can kind of get away with working from home. But it's young people, it's the conversations like at the water cooler, at the pub after work. They'll say, I know how you get on with Mike. This is how he works. This is how you do it. Talk to him this way. This is how he responds to argument. This is how the boss operates best. It's those conversations that you don't get if you're on a Zoom call. It's all in the private sort of conversations.
And also
on
the workplace.
That's how workplaces actually work. It's an organic thing. It's not just a sterile Zoom call.
And it's also a conversation that you have if you want to. We hear a lot of times from young people that I haven't got any opportunities in this job, so I'm going to go off and do something else. Well, you don't know about the opportunities unless you're actually physically there, and then you find out so-and-so's leaving. You might apply for that job. You might get more money, and then the whole sort of corporate ladder. In those kind of white-collar jobs is really, really important. And also, Ryan, I would say this to you, this working from home thing creates a two-tier system, doesn't it? Because you might be getting your deliveries brought to your door, you might be getting your groceries brought to your door. There's a lot of people who can't work from home.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think when people say that they may be more productive by working from home, I think that it just means their home life is slightly more easier. They may be able to do the school run, they may be able to wait in for those shops. But it does create that two-tier system, because some people, if you work in the building trade, if you're in road haulage or what have you, you just can't have that. And it does it may well cost you more money. So I think it does create that two-tier system, and I think that is particularly unfair on a vast swathe of workers out there.
Yeah, I think so. The other big story we've been talking about this morning is crime. Front page of the Times today, they want to create, apparently Shabana Mahmood, the Justice Minister, wants to create a prison environment, but not in a prison. To which I say, well, that's not a prison environment, is it? If you go into a prison where you're locked up for 24 hours a day, or however many hours a day you are, that is confinement. Not being in a prison is not a prison environment, I'm afraid. Walking around with a tag on your ankle, and it's not safe for people. Crime is up massively. John Rentoul disagrees, but he's wrong.
I enjoyed your discussion.
It was interesting, wasn't it? But the point is that, we haven't got enough prisons. We need to build more. We haven't got enough police, and we haven't got enough police doing the jobs that they should be doing, surely.
Yeah. Well, I think there's ways to be innovative in how we imprison people. So, for example, on the continent, they have weekend prisons.
Okay.
So, like, someone can continue their... Because part of the problem with reoffending is that if you put someone in prison, all their chance of going back to their previous life is cut off.
Yeah.
If they're a first-time, not necessarily a most serious offender, put them in jail for the weekends. So you're taking away their liberty, you're punishing them, but you're giving them an opportunity perhaps to keep their job, keep their links with their family, so that they're not completely, going down a different path. So I think some sort of innovation in how we punish offenders is good if we have that sort of system. But, I was a bit confused by that story.
Yeah, I think so.
Well.
And, Ryan, they seem to have misinterpreted once again how much money this is going to cost, because they look as if they've undershot it by £4 billion, which seems to be quite a big accounting error, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think when you look at the prison system and how much it's going to cost over the next few years, it's going to be billions. And the trouble is, if you can't build enough prisons, you're going to be missing the amount of spaces that you need to fill those prisons with. So that's going to be very difficult as well. But I go back to a point that Keir Starmer made during his conference speech. People will say they want more prisons, but do they want them built near them? Keir Starmer was very, very clear in his conference speech to talk about the trade-offs. If you want cheaper energy bills, you're going to have the pylons built next year. If you want more prison places, you may have to have a prison built at the bottom of your road. So he's trying to sort of set some realism into that, and it's into the public who've really got to buy it.
Yes. Meanwhile, it used to be called porridge, of course. Porridge is now banned, according to the Labour Party. They seem to have got that one wrong as well. How's porridge made it onto the junk food banned list?
Porridge?
Well, I think what's happened here is the government have come up with their advertising ban, a whole sort of list of junk foods that go onto that. And I think one thing they're trying to say is those sweetened porridges that are the ones that
why are they even bothering? I mean, they talk about micromanaging the economy. The productivity levels in this country are down the toilet. Growth is going to go into a negative very shortly. We're going to find that inflation's up. Unemployment's up, and they're worried about porridge, and they're worried about kids eating the wrong kind of food.
Yeah, no, I did speak to Downing Street about this yesterday, and they are absolutely steadfast and adamant on this, that they are very, very keen to talk about how the obesity problem in this country, the knock-on effects for the NHS. This seems a real micro-management issue when it comes to food, but they sort of see it as part of this big picture, and they won't be swayed off course.
Maybe they're worried about illegal immigrants being hurt by eating porridge.
Yes, very possibly.
When they arrive. We don't want our illegal immigrants, getting fat, do we?
You have to be very careful, because it can be very hot when you take it out of the microwave.
Exactly.
I mean, that'll be a warning.
I hope the warnings are very clear.
Yeah, they will need more. Yeah,
we probably need them translated into multiple languages.
Very good idea. That's a great idea. You see, he's only been in reform one day, and he's already coming out with some brilliant stuff. Ryan, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Tim, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed for coming in, founder of Conservative Home, now newest member of the Reform Party.